Everyone, this is my watch list for Thursday, April 9th. All right, so what happened yesterday? SPY immediately started selling off the open, like I mentioned, right below 676. 676, that big daily level. I'll show you guys in a second. So we started selling off the open, popped into 676, failed it, and continued failing all the way down to 671, where we bounced and kind of boxed for the rest of the session in between 672.50 and 676. Where did I short? I shorted right here at 1025. You could have also shorted this 676. I just wanted to see confirmations of a failure before getting short. And this wound up working really well. This entry, I got in on this candle, 1025, and it sold from 675 all the way down to 671.50. So really, we got a really nice move on this. Contracts wound up doing like 50%. And then the rest of the session was pretty boxed. So what's happening today? SPY is gapping down a little bit, down 0.39%, but it's still within the range of yesterday's session, all right? I'm still going to put importance on the 676 level. I'll show you guys why. Go to the daily, check that out. 1, 2, 3. This was a huge previous demand, which has turned into supply, right? Demand turns into supply once it breaks below. So now this is our supply, 676. I also have levels above at 680 and 683. Those are my next levels of supply. So I'll be watching for rejects if we pop into either 680 or 683 today. But intraday, I'm going to use this 676 as my bull bear pivot, all right? If we are below 676, I'll be looking for shorts. If we are above 676, we can actually look for longs into 680, into 683 potentially, all right? So that's what I'll be watching off the open. Do we fail the 676 or do we reclaim, all right? Do we break below the previous session low? Do we break below 671.50, which was that wick from the previous day low? Then we could potentially sell all the way back into our 666, which is that area from before, right? Here's the 666, 666, and that's where we can look for bounces. We can look for longs in the market if we sell back into 666, all right? Now, is this a little bull flag on SPY? Maybe, all right? Maybe it is, but we do have a lot of supply ahead. So let's kind of watch and see what happens off the open there. But these are my levels, all right? QQQ, we have massive supply just above. Check this out, 612.50 area, 613. I actually shorted this so many times. Early March, I shorted like 10 days in a row. I mean, it was such a crazy level. It's huge. If we get a pop into that 612.50, 613 area, I will be looking for shorts on the Qs, all right? Besides that, bounce levels, 596, right? 596 was back here, back here. That's my level on the Qs, it's 596. If we break 596, it's 592. But those are the two different areas that we can look for bounces on QQQ if it pulls back into these levels, okay? And another thing that we can just kind of look at for bull bear pivots, right? Previous session low, what is it, 602? All right, 602, we lose 602, we have room all the way back down to 596, right? If we reclaim this session area high, right, 607.50 area, then we can get the move back into 612.15, okay? So that's what we can watch on the Qs. Let's look at some individuals. Apple didn't really do much yesterday. It actually bounced off the 257. 257, remember, I took this long back on Monday, and then Rav caught the bounce, really nice trade yesterday off of the 257, but it didn't wind up breaking session highs. So 260, I do have a level of 262, but I actually would be interested in getting an early entry if this breaks above 260. 260 has room in a 262, and then if we break 262, everyone's going to start chasing this long into 265, all right? So I'll be watching Apple today. It kind of depends on the market as well, but if we get above 260, I do like longs on Apple. AMD's filled the gap, right? AMD already filled the gap. I said this might take 1 or 2 sessions. It took exactly 2 sessions to fill the gap, right? We went from 220 to 235 in literally 2 sessions, all right? This was, most of the move happened overnight, so you couldn't have really caught this unless you took a bounce on it yesterday off that 226 level. But it's filled the gap, and the value is kind of drying out. If it reclaims the gap, like if it reclaims 235, then we could see potential upside back in 250, 260, these higher highs up here. It just depends what happens with this gap fill level. But I don't want to be longing into the gap fill if there's potential rejects here off 235. Let's wait for it to build a bit, and then if it starts building over 235, maybe we can look for longs tomorrow or next week. Okay. Amazon, holy smokes! Look at this pre-market candle. Wow, I'm not sure if there's any news coming out. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy highlights plans for $200 billion in capital expenditures in 2026. Okay, wow. Says much of AWS 2020's CapEx will be monetized. Okay, cool. That's awesome. All right, so Amazon's ripping pre-market 226, guys. It's the gap fill, right? It's the gap fill 226. You see this from back here from February from the earnings. We break above 226. It has room into 232, which was the low from Wednesday, February 4. Okay. So this is actually something that we can watch today. It's the strongest name pre-market here. We can either watch the break over 226, or if it's just showing strength off the open, I mean, I would be interested in taking longs around 223, which was the pre-market high yesterday. The session, this is like the session pivot. If I look at the 5-minute rate, this is like the session pivot from yesterday's session, 223, 222.50. So either over 226 or we look for longs back in like 223 area. Okay. Google, Meta, crazy strong yesterday, up 6.5%. It reclaimed the 610. I talked about the 610 level. Reclaimed, went to 630, one of the strongest names yesterday. If it holds 610, can look for longs, or over 630 at this point, can look for longs over 630 as well, which is the previous session high. All right, Netflix, I'm looking for longs over 101. This name keeps tapping 100 liquidity. This is very normal to see consolidation around these big psychological whole numbers like 100, right? There's a lot of liquidity in these areas, but it popped above, failed it, popped above, failed it. All right, now if it can actually get above and hold 100, break above these session highs, 101, then I do like longs on Netflix, okay? Last name I'm watching today, PLTR. PLTR, one of the weakest names yesterday, down 6.2%. If you look at all the betas, everything was green. Market's green, everything's green. Palantir's red, and Tesla was red, all right? Palantir red, I'm not sure if there was specific news. Michael Barry, I think, Palantir sell-off, retail traders shrug off. Oh, yeah, Michael Barry was saying something about Palantir yesterday. But I think it's also, war, the ceasefire, right? This is a war-driven stock. And if there's a ceasefire, then, what's the point of buying this company, right? So it's already overvalued. I've already said I think it goes to 100 by the end of 2026. But I do think that because this was the weakest name yesterday, we can look at shorts now. We can look at pops and fades of the 148. I've always talked about this 148 level, and I'll show you why. I mean, you can see the pivot right here, right, off of that Monday, March 23rd. But let's zoom way out to the daily and look at this 148. 148, Friday, November 25th. 148 here. 148 was actually the first big reject from June of 2025, where we got like a 10% red day in one day, right? So 148 is my massive level, okay? And this is a bearish engulfing candle on the daily, all right? So I like if we pop and the 148 today, fail, we can look for shorts on Palantir, right? And this is something that I would actually take, okay? All right, so that's my watch list for today. SPY, QQQ, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Palantir. Let's see what happens. Thanks for joining. Have a good session.